Whether you're just getting started on your cybersecurity journey or if you're a few years in, I'm going to share with you my recommended roadmap for getting into cybersecurity in 2024. Now, there are really only two key changes when it comes to getting into the industry in 2024 compared to previous years. Number one is that the job market is now much more skewed to favor candidates with job experience. However, before you say that's not me and just click off the video, you're definitely going to want to watch until the very end, where I'll be sharing with you a strategy that I personally use to overcome this challenge that you can also implement to do the same regardless of your current situation. And number two is that you definitely need to be leveraging AI. Now, with that out of the way, let's jump right into it. All right, so I have here a mind map that I drew up for you guys to help kind of give you that visual aid while we're stepping through this. So for getting into cybersecurity in 2024, especially leaning towards the offensive side, which, stay tuned to the end. I'll tell you how you can tweak this pretty easily, a few minor tweaks to cater it towards the defensive side, like if you want to go into SOC analyst or something like that. It's not too much different from what you see here. But the very first thing is you need to establish your fundamentals. If you're completely new to the game of cybersecurity, you're definitely going to want to get your foundations down solid. So there's really three key areas, three key branching paths that you can see here that you want to go down. That is web security, network security, and Active Directory / operating systems. The very first thing is you want to nail down your HTTP basics. You want to understand how the web works, how HTTP requests and responses work. That is the building blocks of web security. After that, you want to dabble a little bit in some of the higher level languages that make up the web. Things like HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Honestly, for HTML and CSS, you can learn everything you need to know about that in literally a day or less. With JavaScript, maybe you spend a week or so on that. It's going to be a little bit more involved, but you don't have to get too in depth. Nothing like a developer would need to know, but just the very bare bones basics are going to go a very long way here. Now, once you've done that, if you want to get into offensive cybersecurity, you want to go from here and start learning about the different attacks and how to do them. So play around with some industry standard tools like Burp Suite. Having that knowledge and understanding of how to use a proxy like Burp Suite is going to be absolutely essential for getting into pen testing or any kind of offensive security trade. And also getting into web security and understanding the vulnerabilities. What are the security issues that can come up in web security, and how can an attacker exploit it, and go that extra step of actually practicing this stuff hands-on. Don't just learn about this stuff theoretically. You really need to make sure that you're getting that hands-on practice. Whatever learning platform you want to use out there, or even kind of roll your own by creating your own lab. I show you guys how to do that in other videos on this channel. Whichever way method you go about it, you want to make sure that you're getting hands-on practice with this stuff every step of the way. Now, at no point in any of these things do you have to become an expert in it or master it, because that could take you your entire life if you want to. But you just need to know the fundamentals, the foundations of this stuff. Once you learn a little bit of it, feel free to move on to the next one. And also, depending on where you are in your journey right now, you might not have to start at the very beginning. Maybe you already understand HTTP. Maybe you already know HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and you need to work on Burp Suite or your OWASP top 10. Feel free to start halfway down some of these depending on where you're at personally. Also, along with that, you want to learn your foundations in network security, but you want to start off with the basics. Before you even touch the network security aspect, just learn basic networking. How does, networking work? What is an IP address? What is subnetting and routing? Things like that. And from there, you can actually get into the security side of it and try to understand, okay, what are some common vulnerabilities that would spring up in these different network protocols? What can an attacker do? How do we defend against it? And once you've covered those is where you are ready to start diving into some CTFs that incorporate web security and network security, and see, can you hack them? You can go to a site like CTF Time and find some CTFs, or you can go with things like Hack the Box, Try Hack Me, whatever you want to go with. Now is a good time to start applying what you've learned really hands-on and culminating all those things you learned into a challenge like this. And also at this point, you are ready to dive into certifications if that's something you want to do. The reason it's an asterisk here is it is optional. And also the reason that certifications are this far down the path is that I recommend you to take them on after you have the basic foundations down. It's just going to make for a smoother experience with the certifications. Now, I'm sure a question that's on a lot of people's minds right now is, okay, but which certification should I go for? Well, to that, I actually have done an entire certification masterclass. So check the link in the description below. You can pick that one up for free. The certification masterclass down in the link below used to only be available to my paying clients. It used to be a paid product, but now I have opened it up to all of you guys because look, things are getting pretty dire out there. I understand the job market is getting pretty tough. You guys need all of the help you can get, and also as a special thank you for supporting the channel. So definitely go and pick that one up. It's going to answer probably all the questions that you have on certifications and which one you should go for. So with that out of the way, we also want to traverse down this path here and start learning about the operating systems and things like that. We want to have a very solid foundation with our ability to use the command line, because in offensive security, you're going to be in the command line, I would say like 90% of the time. You won't have graphical access. You'll be in the command line. So you need to be very solid on that. So you want to practice your Linux command line, Windows command line as well. So along the journey here, you're going to branch out and learn both Linux and Windows. You could probably start with Linux here first. There's a lot of resources out there available for it. It's an easier command line to grasp for most people. So you can start here and then dive into some Linux privilege escalation. So if you have hacked into a Linux system, how do you go from basic user to root user, right? What are some techniques and common security vulnerabilities that can come up that would allow you to escalate your privileges, and how can you secure them as well? And same thing with Windows, right? Get comfortable with the Windows operating system and Windows privilege escalation. So if you land on a machine and you're a basic user on a Windows system, how can you go from that basic user to administrator access or full-on system access? So with Windows, you can branch down a little bit further. Now you want to get into Active Directory basics. Not quite the security side of it yet, but just understanding what is Active Directory, how does it work, what are like forests and domains and things like that. And how do you set up Active Directory? This is a great exercise to do at this point in the process, is just set up a Windows server and install Active Directory domain services. Create your own Active Directory domain and have some users and groups and things like that. Just get the basics of how it works. It's going to be super important whether you're on the offense or defensive side. You will be working with Active Directory a ton. And also, after that is when you can get into the security side of it, like what are the common security issues that can spring up in an Active Directory environment? How can you hack them? How can you secure them? You probably are getting the general theme of the flow here by now. And there is one last branching path down here, and that is to learn the security basics. So when I say security basics, I know that's a vague term. What do I mean, right? Talking about things like the CIA triad, basic cryptography, like, encryption, encoding, things like that. You don't have to understand the math behind them or anything like that, but you just need to understand at a basic level these concepts. A lot of this stuff you can find in something like the Google cybersecurity material, or if you go for Security Plus, that material, that's kind of what I'm talking about there, just the foundations of cybersecurity. And then along those lines, you also want to get some practice in reporting. This is where a lot of people go wrong. They skip the reporting side because it's not fun, right? Everyone just wants to focus on the hacking part. That's the sexy part. In comparison, reporting is boring, so most people don't report. But here's the thing. If you get hired on in cybersecurity, the product that you're going to produce is the report that you write. That is to show the outcome of the test. That is the product that you will produce and deliver to the client. So you definitely need to be practicing this aspect of the job from a very early stage. So you want to do that. And here's the thing. When you write these reports, it's going to be hard to know, is this a solid report? Is this a professional report or an amateur report? So I would highly recommend to try to get your reports reviewed by a professional. This is something that I do for my students all the time because I've seen thousands of these reports over the course of my career and helping people. So there's always a ton of mistakes that a newbie will make when they write their first report. And so you want to find someone in the field, preferably, definitely someone with a good eye for it, and have them review your report so that you can make sure that you're showcasing something very professional here that's going to really maximize, helping you land the job. Because let's face it, that's why we're all learning this stuff at the end of the day, to get a job in the field or maybe freelancing or something like that. So once you've done all of these things, you are now ready to apply for jobs. You are job ready from a knowledge standpoint. Now, you want to make sure that you're building up your portfolio as you do all this stuff so that you can actually showcase to an employer that you have this skill set. But there are some key things that I want to mention here as well. Before I do, you might be wondering, where is programming, right? There's no programming on here. And the thing is, this is a very expedited path to get into cybersecurity in 2024. You don't actually need any kind of programming knowledge to land that first job. Now, I would highly recommend to learn programming at some point of your journey, and you may want to even consider learning it before you land your first job, just because it's going to make certain aspects of the job easier. The analogy that I often make is that not learning programming in cybersecurity is kind of like playing basketball by hopping on one foot, even though you have 2 feet. There's just no point in doing that. But if you really want to expedite the process, you technically do not have to learn programming first. So just understand that. And like I was saying, if you want to modify this for SOC analysts, like specifically, you want to become a SOC analyst, okay? The modification that I would make to this roadmap here is, in all of these branches, I just wouldn't do the end branch here. So I wouldn't do Burp Suite. I wouldn't worry about that. You probably want to focus on top 10. That's fine, to understand what the vulnerabilities are. But this is even optional, because as a SOC analyst, you don't need to know too much in depth on the OWASP top 10, but it's good to have a general knowledge. You don't have to worry about CTFs. You don't have to worry about Linux privilege escalation or Windows privilege escalation. You want to learn the basics of Active Directory, but you don't need to know Active Directory security super in depth. If you do learn these things, it's going to make you better at the SOC analyst position, though. I will say that, because you're trying to detect the hacker. So if you do the hacking, that's just going to make you a better SOC analyst. But technically, you could skip those things. Now, what you would want to add instead is you would want to set up some kind of logging and monitoring system. So you would want to set up like a Splunk instance or maybe an Elk stack, and you would want to get practice pulling in log data from different systems into Splunk or Elk. This is going to be very important if you want to go the SOC analyst route. So that would be the slight modification that I would make for that specific thing, because I know a lot of people are interested in the SOC path. Now, what I would want to add to this is you definitely want to be leveraging AI during your learning journey as you go through learning this stuff. Specifically, you want to ask ChatGPT to explain stuff to you when you don't understand it. Use that. It's a tremendous learning tool, to be honest. And you also want to take very thorough notes. As you're doing this, you want to make sure that you are immortalizing your knowledge through your notes. So you can always go back at any time and reference, what you've learned in the past. So you don't have to worry about memorizing stuff. You also want to look for ways to gain experience before applying, right? Look for ways to maybe do some freelancing, maybe do some pen tests for people things like that. Also, engage with the cybersecurity community. There's a lot of really helpful, friendly people out there that, who knows, maybe they can help you find your next opportunity. So making sure that you are active in the community, definitely a good idea as well. So don't forget to follow the link in the description below to pick up the free Certification Masterclass and figure out which cybersecurity cert makes the most sense for you to pursue on your journey into this field. And if you need some help figuring out how you can leverage the power of AI to learn cybersecurity, you're definitely going to want to check out the video on screen right now. Happy New Year, and best of luck on your cybersecurity learning journey in 2024.